Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here with this oft requested video, which is a dual class arena guide. So if you're not aware, I wasn't originally going to make this video because from what we had heard from Blizzard, dual class was only going to last for a week, but it has been since confirmed that dual class will be going until the next expansion releases, which is on December 7th. So we still have, as of recording this video, about 3 weeks left until dual class is over, so I definitely thought it was worth making this video now. The next expansion, of course, being Fracture in Alterac Valley, which I'll be releasing some additional videos as well, talking about some of the cards that have been revealed, because they're pretty freaking crazy for Arena, but we'll get there in that video. And so for this video, I'm going to be focusing really on kind of what's different about dual class Arena versus, regular Arena. If you want just more of a general guide of Arena, I have some videos in particular, like a drafting guide and some other guides around playing Arena. I'm not going to cover too much of that. I'm going to talk really specifically about what you need to know for dual class. Now, I'd particularly recommend if you're a returning player, I have the returning player guide that might be of special interest to you. But with that, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. So with that, we're going to talk about the first topic here, which is class balance. Unfortunately, I think this is actually the single most important thing to understand about this meta, is just that it's frankly just not very balanced. It's not a deal breaker exactly. It doesn't make the game unplayable, but it's just, you have to understand that, which classes you get is really, really important, even compared to a relatively unbalanced meta before. And I think it's not super clear to everyone exactly why that is. So that's why I actually have a very long Twitter rant post here, which I'm gonna go into because I essentially go through all these details here. So essentially, it's very important in dual class just which hero you pick first, but also which hero you pick second. I think particularly a lot of people, I have the HS replay numbers pulled up here. I think a lot of people don't actually understand exactly how unbalanced dual class is, just because if you look at HS replay, the standard source for kind of, determining arena balance, this doesn't look that bad, right? 54% at the top, 43 at the bottom. Generally, anything between 45 and 55 is what, Blizzard considers acceptable. So this doesn't look super bad, right? There's some times where a class could be towards 60%, and there could be classes sub 40. The last meta, which was one of the worst balanced metas in recent memory, had Warlock at 56 point something and 2 classes below 40. So this doesn't look that bad, right? But here's the thing, is that this only looks at the first class. It does not consider at all the second class. And I think the second class actually has an even bigger impact on balance than the first class does. So as it released this Twitter thread, I kind of spawned this off of, I had a very good stretch of runs recently, having a whole bunch of 12s, including 2 12-1s. But a big part of that, as I mentioned, was just the selection of classes I got it. And essentially, for first pick, what you're really looking for, you really want Priest, Paladin, and also Shaman's pretty good too. If you get anything else, it's significantly worse, essentially. And for second pick, you really want exactly Warlock and Demon Hunter. And then beyond that, there are a few choices. You can take Paladin to try to get card quality. Priest for card quality as well. It's a bit worse, but still okay. But often for second pick, you will value the hero power pretty well. So that's where you open up the ability to take something like Druid or Rogue or Mage as well. And in this tweet, I show the illustrative example here for Demon Hunter, for example. Demon Hunter being an incredibly good second pick, but not too good of a first pick hero. So we're looking at, these are the win rates of cards in Demon Hunter, right? Coilfang being by far the best, being over 60%, because it's just insanely powerful in Arena. But generally, these cards not doing super well. We're looking at 56% win rate. If you're not familiar with HS replay data, 56% is average, because generally HS replay players are better than average players, so they're going to have better than 50% win rate. So these are not super high numbers. Where if you look at pretty much these same selection of cards in Demon Hunter as second pick, you can see, holy crap, look at all these. All these cards are suddenly at 60% roughly, but going from something like 56% to 60%. That's how much better it is to actually pick Demon Hunter second, because essentially that's the power of the Demon Hunter hero power. And specifically, as I point out here with a screenshot from one of my actual drafts, is that you can look at a card like Gnarg Glavesmith. Like Gnarg Glavesmith is it's a pretty good Demon Hunter card, right? But like it's only 52.3% win rate, but as you can see in the screenshot, when you have Paladin first with Demon Hunter, its win rate shoots way the heck up to 64.5%, which isn't because it's a super insanely powerful card. It's not better than, you know, Coilfang Warlord or something. It's just the fact that when you have this combination of Paladin and Demon Hunter together, it's absolutely insane. And, you know, when, you know, specifically like I use Arena Tracker, I'll probably link this in the description of the video. This is one of the drafting tool you'll see in all my videos. During dual class, it's especially useful because you can actually see this kind of information. You can't see through the HS Replay UI super easily or directly exactly how well these cards are doing in specific classes. Arena Tracker is actually able to pull this information directly, so you get to see these kind of anomalies, so to speak. As I mentioned in my next tweet in this chain, by the way, if you're interested in my Twitter, you can look at this yourself at kolst IRL. But premium cards, to get to like 64, 65, 66% win rate, you'd be looking at a class which on the front page of HS Replay would be like more than like 60%, which would be absolutely insane and unacceptable. And there is another drafting tool which actually goes a bit more into depth of this, and that is Hearth Arena. And so I don't tend to use Hearth Arena too much myself. I don't like Overwolf personally, but you know, they are a valuable tool, especially for newer players, I think. And they released this graphic on their Twitter recently, which actually shows, based off of their own data, what the win rates of all these individual hero combinations actually looks like. And so you can see over here, just looking at like the best combinations, as I said, you know, you want Demon Hunter and Warlock hero power ideal, and you want Paladin Priest or maybe Shaman, and you can see just how, you know, if you get the right combination, you're looking at something like 58, 59% win rate, just absolutely insane. Versus if you take some, you know, completely garbage combination like Hunter Warrior, you're as low as like 34, 35%. And so this is really why I say, like, you know, the single most important thing about Dual Class Arena, if you just want to win, is making sure that you're picking the right heroes, because that's just the right classes. Because if you're fighting a really uphill battle if you just pick, you know, something completely garbage. Because in a single class meta, if you have some kind of spread like 58 to 34, like that would be actually the worst balanced meta literally ever in normal Arena. And so I wonder from Blizzard's side, like, to be honest, like, you know, dual class doesn't happen that often. It's not the biggest deal. Dual class is still fun with all this, so I don't know if they really, we could even expect them to invest the resources into it. But, you know, if anyone at Blizzard happens to be watching, like, it would probably be pretty reasonable to, if it's possible, adjust the balancing, you know, through micro adjusts to actually account for which class is second, if that isn't really being done, because that would be probably the easiest way to adjust this. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have bigger issues like Deeper Engineer, which was very recently removed. In the short term, it is what it is, I guess. And with that, I'm going to keep these stats pulled up and just talk about the second topic, I think, which is just synergy between heroes or between classes. I want to talk about like specific hero combinations beyond just, you know, pick the good classes, what would make sense. So to be totally honest, I mean, there's so much good stuff in the neutral set. It used to be, you know, back in the day that, oh man, you could pick like Rogue and Warrior together, and then wow, you get to Dagger Execute, because that's like the craziest thing you could do. The game has just moved past that in power level. You know, these kind of synergies just aren't really a consideration anymore, not so much. And at least off of my experience, like there really just hasn't been that much impact between, like, you know, directly synergizing. But I think if you actually look even in like these numbers right here, you can see some level of consideration where certain combinations will do slightly better than others. And, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't thought through all 90 possible combinations of classes, but the one thing I would say as an overriding theme is, like, you know, if you do get forced to take a bad class first, it seems pretty reasonable to, if you can, select like maybe like select priest second, even possibly priest or paladin, so that you can actually get, if you pick the bad classes, you don't actually get good cards. So if you maybe prioritize one of the classes like priest or paladin or even shaman, that actually gets good cards, so that at least you're not playing with absolute garbage, right? But otherwise, like if you have priest or paladin first pick, or even shaman, you know, you can prioritize a bit more just getting a class that has a good hero power, because you'll get the good cards from the first class. So then the hero power may actually amplify. So you know, if you pick something like rogue, for example, which isn't expected to give you really anything, you'll get these good priest or paladin cards. So, you know, just having that dagger will be really helpful. But beyond that, like really, there's some other considerations. Like, you know, if you pick a class, like if you end up having something like, you know, druid, for example, it's helpful to get something with it that has, you know, more ability to cast like area of effect abilities, right? Like all these considerations, like classes covering each other's weaknesses, having, you know, the ability to transform or cast area of effect spells, or just generally remove or draw cards. These are all considerations, but it just feels like they're a bit weaker now compared to just, you know, picking the good stuff. Because for example, like Demon Hunter having as many good cards that they have right now has almost as much has so much card draw, for example, that like they draw almost as well, not quite as well, but as Warlock, with Warlock hero power, just because they have so many crazy cards. And so that's the main thing there. So if you want a little bit more in-depth stuff about dual class specifically, I did do a dual class guide last year, which I could direct you to, but the main other thing I wanted to talk to is just like how the meta has changed with this particular dual class. So one of the big things to consider now is just the fact that there's just so many abilities, even like the neutral set, for example, to swing back games. You know, Ashes of Outlands came back, which is really significant because it brought back things like Hog Merchants and also like Scavenging Shavara, Rusted Raider. So one of the big things I've noticed myself, I've always been personally the player to, you know, try to like coin out 2-drops and try to, you know, get a really early advantage and try to snowball off of that. But it really just seems like that just isn't the way to do it anymore. You just have to expect that people are going to be able to swing back, because there's also things like, you know, Galaka Glutton, for example. If you ever play any beast, then Lord help you. But yeah, so it's like, that's one thing I've noticed, is that rather than just trying to coin really early when you're going second, myself, I've been, you know, really trying to save it until it really has a significant impact. Because there's other things, for example, you know, Dormants, like Imprisoned Vile Fiend, for example, you can coin 2s and then just be losing to an Imprisoned Vile Fiend. It's just not really a consistent way to actually gain an advantage anymore. And of course, the bulk of the games I've played as of recording this video were when Deep Run Engineer was in the game as well. Of course, Deep Run Engineer was really having a huge impact on the meta. Of course, Blizzard recently did decide to remove Deep Run Engineer from the draft. Sneeds is still draftable and is still like the most common legendary, so don't think that Sneeds is gone. But yeah, at least it's not going to be like one of the most common cards in the game, because you won't be seeing it off of Deep Run anymore. But of course, be aware that when they remove cards from draft, they do not typically, and in this case, they did not retire the decks that contain that card. So people that are playing Arena now are still experiencing Deep Run Engineers. Just gonna be the way it is until there's, you know, a rotation, probably with Alterac Valley expansion. So it's just kind of how it is. So you're still gonna see them sometime, but of course, over time, it's going to become less and less frequent. But otherwise, for gameplay stuff, I would probably direct you guys, again, as I mentioned in the early part of the video, to the returning player guide, because really this is kind of return to these kind of like, you know, super swingy meta that you just have to kind of not, you try to prevent the swing as well as possible, but essentially you expect the swing to happen and you prepare for it as well as you possibly can. And I guess the one thing I would add to that is, you know, consider if you have a really good deck, you can really try to fight to say, okay, I'm just going to try to withstand and, you know, hold out and beat my opponent in value. Where if you do not have that super good deck, you might just need to say, okay, I just need to end this game as soon as possible, and every possible thing that can go face, you're going to send into their face. As a very good example, I faced another streamer in one of my recent runs, which ended up 12-0, where, you know, my opponent knew that he couldn't win the long game, and he just basically sent everything face, and he was very close at 0-0 to sending my deck, which ended up going to 12-0 to 0-1. But with that, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say for this guide video. Thanks a lot for hanging out. If you like this video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Let me know generally what your thoughts are of dual class or anything you would add to this video in the comment section down below. But yeah, subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. Thanks a lot for hanging out, and we will see you guys in the next one.